Okay, we can start now. So, good evening to everyone. We are so happy you are here. Participants, our guests, our facilitator, everybody here, we want to give you a good evening, good day, wherever you are. We are happy you are here. On behalf of the Institute of ICT Professionals Ghana, IIPGH, I want to warmly welcome every one of you to today's webinar. Today, we are looking at critical information infrastructure compliance in Ghana, and we are just asking how people are ready for the enforcement of the cybersecurity authorities' effort to make sure that people comply. We appreciate you taking some time of your busy schedule to join this very important conversation, especially at a time where cybersecurity and regulatory compliance are becoming very central in how organizations operate and how they become resilient. So that is what exactly we are going to do this evening. Some just housekeeping things that we have to know. The facilitator will take over from me to take us through his presentation. I will entreat all of us to write our questions down. You can put it in the chat, and you can also raise up your hands when there's time for Q&A for you to ask your questions. If you have any question, as I've said, let us drop them. Let us wait for him to finish. Then we'll come in to answer them appropriately. We want to ensure that we have a good conversation. So we have one of our members, a senior member of that stature, who is going to join us to give us the presentation and take us through how people are ready to comply with the enforcement, which is going to be undertaken by the Cybersecurity Authority. This evening, the facilitation or the conversation is going to be facilitated by Mr. Isaac Boy. Mr. Isaac Boy is a highly respected cybersecurity professional with over 15 years of experience supporting organizations across financial services, telecommunications, insurance, and public sector. He is a proud member of ISACA, and not just a proud member, but a gold member, and holds a globally recognized certification, including CISM, CRISC, and CGEIT, that is certification in governance enterprise in IT. He reflects with a great opportunity to talk to us with his deep expertise in governance, risk, and information security leadership. He has led a multiple ISO implementation, that's ISO 27001 implementation and certification projects, and has also advised many executive management and boards on aligning cybersecurity with business strategies, particularly in the area of governance, risk management, compliance, and business continuity. Mr. Boy also brings a strong experience in critical infrastructure environments, which makes him very well positioned for this webinar, having supported organizations in achieving compliance with international standards such as the ISO and PCI DSS, and even with NIST. What stands out about his work is his ability to translate complex technical controls into practical business values, helping organizations strengthen resilience while managing costs and risk effectively. If your reaction button is showing, can you help me with some emojis of clapping to welcome our own Mr. Isaac Boy to join us as he facilitates this webinar for us. Senior Isaac, today, before the meeting started, we were just conversing. I said, tonight is Isaac and Isaac moment. So, Mr. Boy, over to you.
It was.
We are ready for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac A. And thank you, team. Thank you, Mr. Sherry. And I'm happy to join you once more as a presenter on one of your webinars. This is my first webinar for me to join, and I'm so excited to share some of the things that I've picked up through this section. I'm sure a few of us might also note a few things. that you are likely to share with us through the engagement at the tail end. So to all our Muslim, and then luckily for us, the Muslim and the Christians are all fasting together. So I think it's a good year. So this year will be good for all of us, and let's hope for the best. And thanks for your brief write-up about me. And I look forward to sharing what I've researched so far for us to benefit. So today, we are going to see how ready we are for the Ghana cybersecurity enforcement, considering the amendment that has been made and the need for them to drive deeper into enforcing the various requirements. So it will not just be a white elephant sitting on our shelves or on our storages, but we are actually living what is required. Okay. So we'll move on to the great start. So these are the areas that I'll be covering in the next 30 minutes. And then there'll be some few minutes for questions. So I'll try as much as possible to cover the various areas by covering what a CII is all about. For those of us who don't know, some of us or most of us might know already. And what are some of the legal and regulatory requirements and amendments that have come up. And I also realized that there's a need for us to consider some strategic compliance flows as part of the requirement that have been listed in the Cybersecurity Act as well as the Cybersecurity Directive, and which may come as like Archival Act, Electronic Transactions Act, and a few others that we need to keep as we operate. Okay. And then the other one is, why do we have to have the CII compliance? Why does it matter now? Okay. And then we also look at the impact for non-compliance, the various levels of impact, and also how do we check ourselves as to our readiness without keeping personal details as part of the process. And then a call to action for us to really put our house in order and be ready. So CII by law, as it has been defined in the Cybersecurity Act or the CII Directive, is any system that is vital to our national security, okay, and our socio-economic well-being under the Act. So basically, we are talking about any systems. It can be a server, it can be people, it can be data that when it's not available or is compromised, it can lead to a national security or a socio-economic well-being of our nation. And over here, we are talking about 13 sectors, which has been designated under the CII by the Ministerial Gazette Notice 132. And what is the objective of all the requirements in there is to ensure that we have a robust and resilient digital infrastructure through the regulation that will be defined in the Act as well as the Directive. Also carry out awareness campaigns across the various sectors. So we are talking about 13 strong sectors on which the whole nation depends on, from national security and intelligence, our technology systems, our banking and finance, energy, water, transportation, health, emergency, government, food and agriculture, manufacturing, mining, and education. Okay, so those are the various strong sectors that the Act and then the Directive really covers and that we are supposed to comply. And over here, the scope of people that are required to comply, it has now been enforced with the amendment bill. So we'll look at the details of the amendment and then the consequence of the non-compliance. Now, we took a critical look at the amendment bill that's yet to be passed. The objective is to strengthen enforcement. And what comes up here is, one, it expands the regulatory powers and authority of the CSA. So in this case, CSA has authority over Ghana digital assets, and they can actually prosecute with support from Attorney General. And also they have an enhanced governance and enforcement to ensure that new threats or new emerging threats and risks that are coming up are also mitigated and lowered in terms of their impact on our nation. Also, we have new standards and frameworks that are coming up, like the AI governance, ISO privacy, cybersecurity framework that have been around for a while. And the new ones that are coming out is the AI governance as well. So there's a need to ensure that our directive aligns with these new emerging standards and frameworks. Also, not just having the amendment bills and the act sitting there, but ensure that they are actually enforced and the regulatory oversight is highly effective and robust. And these were the establishments and organizations and our professionals, accredited professionals are required to actually comply and ensure effective compliance and requirements. Otherwise, the penalties will follow. Also to align with the global standards and practices. And looking at amendments, I spotted about 24 amendments and 24 insertions. Because of the limited time, I can't go through all of that, but this 5 points actually summarizes those amendments and insertions to ensure effectiveness of the act and then the directive. So the CII, it has been around since 2020 and up to date. And we are having the new amendment coming on board around this time to make it more effective, just to buttress the act that has been around since 2020. And what are the various groupings or areas that it covers? Our information technology and environment, which is more common amongst the banks and financial institutions and the trade area as well, where we have networks, cloud platforms, enterprising application, data management, and digital communication infrastructure. And then the other group of environment that it also covers is the operational technology. That's where we have industrial control systems like the SCADA, energy grids, utilities, infrastructure, and manufacturing automation systems. And not just that, in some environments, you're likely to have a hybrid where you have both the IT and OT environment playing. And in other environments, you're likely to have the Internet of Things just playing, or a mix of IT, OT, and then the IoT as well. So it's not like it's for the IT people, but the operational technology side also comes to play in the Internet of Things, because we are talking about information security, where we are talking about confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and any of the available systems or services that's providing service to our nation, any of them can be compromised through confidentiality parameter or integrity parameter, or availability parameter. So it's all about ensuring that these three factors are actually covered. And then the key entities that are required to enforce or comply with the Act as well as the directive for the CIIs are the CII owners and operators of the 13 sectors that I mentioned. And under the owners, we have the mandatory CII designation and registration. So if you operate under the CII owners and operators, you are supposed to register all your CII assets and also ensure that you carry out security audits periodically and report incidents within 24 hours after confirming to the said GH entity. And also, there needs to be some board level security governance and obligations, and ensure that your cybersecurity and business continuity is also robust enough. Now, when it comes to the service providers, per the Act, it talks about Section 49 talks about mandatory licenses. So if you're a service provider, you're also required to license under the Act. Also, if you run VAPT and pen testing services, you're also supposed to register with the CSA. Also, if you also provide some digital forensics and incident response, you're also required to do the same. Manage security and GRC or governance risk and compliance services, or you provide cybersecurity services as a service, you're supposed to do that. And if you provide training and awareness, you're also required to register as well. Now, when it comes to individuals, that the professionals, of which I'm one of them, we are also supposed to be accredited. Just recently, I realized that mine got expired. And when you take a critical look at the certificate, it tells you that you need to alert the CSA a month before it expires. So I decided to share this on this platform for those of us who are holding the certificate to really take a critical look at it and periodically and put on some alert you before they expire. So that covers on section 59 to 57 to 59. And you can be awarded a tier 1, a tier 2, and a tier 3 professional classification, depending on their assessment of what you have achieved over time and your competence. Also, this is ongoing from the CSA in terms of checks. If you remember, we got the director of the CSA mentioned that if you are providing services and you have not registered with them, they can come after you. So, and we'll look at some of the penalties that comes if you are not registered with them. And these are a few core mandatory cybersecurity requirements if you operate as a CII owner in Ghana. The first one is asset registration. So out of all the 13 sectors, I don't know where each of us find ourselves. Some of us might find yourself in the mining, water sector, energy sector, education sector, banking and finance sector, emergency, health, a whole lot of them. We are required to register all our CII assets with the Cybersecurity Authority. Okay. And also, as part of the governance setup, there need to be an appointed designated cybersecurity officers with clear responsibilities. Okay, so you realize that in most organizations, you have a CISO that's been assigned as a key responsible person to oversee his or her team and then reporting to the board as well as executive management. In addition, another core and mandatory one is to have the establishment of a board-approved cybersecurity governance framework that oversees the works of the CISO and his team. Okay. Basically, anything cybersecurity and ensuring that the CII assets are adequately covered or protected from unauthorized access or cyber attacks, the framework has to speak to it and align with any emerging risks. Also, there need to be some annual cyber risk assessment and audits. In the case of CSA will come in once a while, but internally there need to be some periodic audit that has to be carried out. And when it comes to incident reporting, there's a need to also have your incident report within 24 hours. And when it comes to vulnerability disclosure, there's a need to also do that within 72 hours. Not just that, there's a need to have some security controls in place and implement asset management, asset protection, and monitoring. So all this will not just come with just the people, but it will come with the technology that supports it, and as well as the processes that comes with it. Somewhere at the tail end, we'll share with you an approach and a framework that we can look at that you can use to judge where you are as an organization or as an entity that provides any of the CII services. Now, because we are talking about CII directive, I kind of studied it and identified these pillars. The pillars under the directive under section 5.1, we are talking about the policy that has to be aligned, that the policy that has to be established within the organization. We are talking about 6 requirements here, where one of them is the board approved policy of having a senior accountable officer and an annual review cycle and a data protection and alignment. When it comes to the section 5.2, we are talking about technical, organizational, 15 requirements, and that talks about the asset cataloging. You realize that in certain environments, the team do not have clear visibility of what assets they even have in their environment. But we'll see some solution ahead, how it can help you to really have clear visibility, and it can easily sit with your IT environment, though you are operating some OT environment as well. And you realize that there's a need to also have some effective access control identity management system and monitoring in place. If you have a SOC environment with your supporting infrastructure, that makes it the best for you to operate effectively. As an institution, under the technical organization, you're supposed to have a business continuity and disaster recovery being tested You need to have a plan and being tested through tabletop testing as part of the process to confirm its effectiveness before trying in the real life environment of testing. So these are very critical areas that we need to have. Also have your quarterly risk assessment. If you have a risk assessment or risk management policy that is clear enough and adequate to reflect and talk to the business related risk, bingo, now you can sit at the same table with the business guys or the executive management, and you can really they can really appreciate and contribute to your risk management program that you might have. And then the cybersecurity audits from CSA will also come in periodically. Now, when it comes to incident reporting, I've already mentioned that the 24-hour reporting of incident that has been confirmed has to go. Okay, so internally, you need to have clear procedures with top management on how this reporting has to go, or protocols has to be established to ensure that everybody's happy. And then the 72-hour vulnerability update is also in there, and then a designated point of contact. And you need to have competence or personnel who have that skills and competence to carry out investigation and mitigation. In some of these areas, if you don't have, you can also outsource or nominate or identify one service provider that can provide these services to ensure that you meet all the requirements. Now, as part of establishing and ensuring that you meet the requirement of the Cybersecurity Act as well as the directive, there are a number of other legal regulatory requirements that you need to also complement it to the requirement of the Act. One is the Data Protection Act. That's where you happen to handle the personal data of individuals, either hospital, patients, if it's education entity, you're talking about students, lecturers, what have you, service providers that provide you with the needed services. So there's a need to safeguard all these people in your ecosystem. The other one is the Electronic Transactions Act. When it comes to now, most organizations have gone digital, including insurance companies, including rural banks. Most of them are gone digital. And then because of that, there's a need for us to conform with the Electronic Transactions Act, where any electronic commercialization of transactions have to be secured and protected, and any cyber offenses criminalized as well. There's another area that when it comes to digital preserving and managing digital records, when it comes to Public Records Act, when you go in there, it talks about, because we are talking about 13 sectors within the country that are very key to the survival of the economy. They are more or less like public related records, and we need to conform with that. And I'm sure our compliance guys in our various institutions are aware of this. So this is a way of refreshing what we are doing to ensure full compliance in terms of strategic compliance flows. And then when it comes to, because most of the organizations are going to digitization, it brings to the fact that digital records must be admissible in courts in the event that there's an incident. So this is where our forensic guys and the team can help to ensure that all the needed provisions or processes or procedures or policies are in there to ensure that we have the existing procedures to really meet the requirements and make sure that all the digital records that we create are admissible. And when it comes to preserving these records, per the Data Protection Act, it doesn't come out clearly, but in some other instances, talk about 7 years of preserving such records. In some areas, it also talks about how you need to keep them perpetually. I know of certain organizations where they keep these records perpetually because of the risk some of these records weigh. Okay. Now, I happen to carry out some other research on how these various legal requirements maps to data governance and management, cybersecurity infrastructure, evidence and legal validity, and then privacy and personal rights, as well as compliance and enforcement. And this is how it actually came up. Now, if you study the slide well, the Cybersecurity Act, you realize that most of the areas are kind of mandated, and which means that when it comes to CSA, we are required to really meet all these areas. Where you see 3 dots, it means there's a good strength in there to actually comply with data governance. So let me take, for instance, the first row, data governance and management. The Public Records Act talks about they need to have records created, classified, and then ensure that the retention schedules are actually maintained. So let me take like an education environment. So student records, you need to have a retention schedule for student records. Lectures, the notes that are being used, and what have you. Okay. When it goes to the evidence as well, the standard for document integrity as evidentiary records is also something that you need to have it defined. Okay. For the purpose of this section, we can go deep into these areas because the acts alone come out clearly with those areas that are required. And for those environment that we keep personal data as well, you can see 3 dots also coming there where you happen to keep data of personnel or people's records. So it can be sensitive. Where it's sensitive, it has its own classification level and what controls are required to ensure that they are protected. And electronic transactions as well, you can see 3 dots there. So where you have electronic records, they need to be valid, and then you need to maintain a digital data lifecycle and retention. So it flows all the way down. Where it's not applicable, you can see is a bit blank. Like evidence for cybersecurity and digital infrastructure, you don't see a strong presence there. So this is just to give us an idea when we are implementing, at the implementation level, what we need to really ensure that we have a 360 strategic compliance flow across all the various regulatory requirements. Now, why do we need to have the CII protection now, and why does it matter? The reason being, now the footprint of data or digital footprint is now increasing. We are now digitizing everything that we have. Now you can comfortably sit at your home and even transfer across borders, and even interface. The privileged guys or administrators can now even sit at their home and even manage critical system in the cloud whilst at home securely. So escalation of threats have increased. They are all on the same public or internet, accessible by everybody. But what controls do we have in place to detect and monitor? Now, most of this infrastructure have also been established in the various public sectors like energy, water, and many other areas like health. Okay, so there's a huge dependency on even our transport system, our public welfare and being. Now, can you imagine assuming there's a hit on communication infrastructure? Okay, we have the presence of MTN, the presence of MTN, and the other service providers. Assuming all these guys are hit, there'll be no communication. Can you imagine? I mean, when we had the fiber, the undersea fiber cable got broken, we can all attest to what really happened. Okay, so there's a national dependence on internet or digitization or communication between various entities, the banks, the health sector, energy. When there's power problems, it can impact on most of the industries that are operating unless they have adequate standby generator to power all their systems. And for how long, assuming it's worse off. Prime target our 13 sectors, and that's where it becomes very critical. Okay, so assuming someone has to settle some payments when it comes to health, and then the health or the payment systems like MTN or the banking infrastructure is down, it can lead to a number of risks, like death, because maybe cash and carry, if you don't pay, you will not be offered that service. So that's the reality of the 13th sector that we mentioned in terms of the unavailability of services when they are impacted by, let's say, a ransomware attack, or someone happen to use AI to actually attack most of this infrastructure. So the legal imperative is also comes in here, where we have the Cybersecurity Act and as well as the CSA directive to ensure that we are actually enforcing what is required by all parties in the ecosystem. There's another area that is kind of worrying in terms of mean time to detect has largely reduced from 3-digit days of, let's say, 200 days to 2-digit days, even single-digit days, somewhere in 25. And I'm sure it's even gone beyond. And this is an interesting area that is so revealing that if you are using a traditional way of monitoring your cyber environment, then you are way back, and you are likely to have certain compromise systems that have already occurred. But nothing is happening. I remember I was managing an environment, and a board chairman would see me or meet me in a corridor and say, "Isaac, are we safe?" Now, at that point, it's only based on what systems we are using and what intelligence we have interfaced with it to really let us know whether we are safe or not, and how timely the risk issues that have been shared with the owners have been addressed. So the mean time to detect and the mean time to respond have largely reduced, and which means that now we are talking about you might have your SOC, you might have your SIEM, you might have the machine learning systems in place to automatically detect anomalies in your environment and confirm whether it's really an attack. And if you don't act, the issue is there's the need to also put in the needed systems like a SOAR system in place that can help you contain the issue before it escalates. If you don't have any automated system in place and you go manual, that's also another challenge. But now most organizations are investing with the automated approach where AI is also related. That lets you focus on the most critical issues in the environment, and then ensure that you are always abreast with the emerging issues. Now, the way forward is achieving a mean time to detect of less than 8 hours. That's projected. Okay, that counts with AI era in this sense. And the mean time to respond is at least less than 4 hours. Okay, so we have systems, we have solutions in place that are really doing the trick, doing the heavy work for you, and then you focus on the most critical aspects of breaches. So by 2028 or even earlier, looking at the speed of AI growth, it's likely to be earlier. And it's saving like 4.5 million USD averagely with those solutions that have come up. So it's also become very necessary to protect our CII infrastructure at our organization level, government level, and individuals. So for the organization, I'll just mention one or two. And then I think I gave scenarios when there's a ransomware attack on our OT infrastructure, let's say Ghana Water or our energy sector. Assuming there's a ransomware attack, we are likely to sleep in darkness, and it will impact on all the sectors who depend on power. Okay, so if it's not a multi effect of the attack, or it's not a systemic issue, maybe those in the north might be run a different system, they might be okay. Luckily, we have different setups scattered all over the country. So there's a need to ensure that the impact is minimal. Financial losses for the banks, fraud cases can happen, and maybe if there's an intellectual property theft as well, that can also happen for those of us using shadow AI in our environments that our CISO guys are now aware data is being injected into the machine learning systems, without any proper governance and oversight. So the risk is escalating, as well as when it comes to supply chain liability from third parties, and the need to also ensure that our third parties that we deal with, that ISO 27001 have those requirements that can help you to ensure that those third parties are adequately protected, and we have adequate security around them. Reputational damage is also obvious. When it comes to governments, I mean, it's so obvious that energy, water, transport systems, and finance systems can also be impacted as well. And when it comes to individuals, these days we have identity theft also happening. People calling banks and then using deepfake voice or video to simulate that they are the main owners of the bank account, transfer so and so an amount from this bank to that bank. So we are all at risk. And what is now happening is, I mean, if the various authorities or officers at the various sectors are called upon using these deepfake scams and voice cloning, they really have to validate who has really called, whether it's the real person who made a call. And the recent US, Iran, and Israeli attacks, there have been instances where deepfake scams and voice cloning and videos have come up where, let's say, the commander-in-chief has called the privileged users or the technical guys to lower down or shut down a service, and upon confirmation, it wasn't really the case. So it's really an evolving thing, and that is coming up. So we need more awareness at our individual personnel level and our various officers who are handling critical infrastructure, for them to be aware of some of these things. And with the involvement of AI, there's a need for us to have effective governance and awareness carrying out to ensure that we are adequately covered. We always say the weakest link is a human. So it's also another critical aspect of the need for us to wake up and then put in the needed structures. Now, what happens if it really happens in terms of any violation of the requirements of the CII requirements or directive? Financial penalties are likely to happen, heavy fines or legal sanctions for non-compliance. Even CSA can even shut your services down, ask you to shut down or prevent you from operating. You can come in to do some further audits to see how adequate you are if you come back to say you are now okay and you want to resume business, and ensure that your business doesn't get interrupted in the near future. And once it happens, your organization will be in the news, in the media, and your customers, your discerning customers, your valuable customers where you make your good money, they are likely to leave you or move to your competitor. That's another critical reputational management that we need to manage in there and avoid it from happening. Increased vulnerability is also there. And according to the World Economic Forum, 4.45 million USD are more related to data breaches. And 93% of organizations have also agreed that cyber risk is now business risk. And 50% of board members are also saying that cyber risk is now a top strategic threat. So it's so obvious we can leave it with the CISO and his team or the IT guys. The business are now in the picture, because when it happens, the big picture is so huge, the impact is so huge, and we cannot leave it with the technical guys. So I decided to share with you some of the penalties that count for non-compliance, from high severity to lower severity. For the higher severity, we are talking about 120,000 to 600,000 Ghana cedis. It's not USD, so don't be scared. So we are talking about when there's a critical system outage that is not reported. That's the extent of fine that can be slapped by the CSA on you. And if you fail to comply with the CSA as well, and they give you some directive and you ignore, you are required to pay such a fine. And so if your annual profit is up to this and even more, and your risk appetite can take up to that, then you are cool. But there's a need to really work at this and ensure that it doesn't happen. I'm sure it can be one of the key KPIs that your executive management can give to the CISO and his team related to penalties as well annually. Now, when it comes to the moderative severity penalties, which are the administrative and operational, it's all about failure to register and pay fees, and failure to inform CSA of any change of ownership, and failure to conduct periodic and submit CII audits to CSA. And the lower area of compliance is on false information, cyberbullying. It also ranges from 30,000 to 300,000. So assuming you're an individual, you are supposed to cover 30,000, 300,000 for any false information. And also unauthorized private communication recording. It's also illegal, intercepting people's privacy as well. Now, when it comes to the by sector, it also ranges according to that area. But I realize that banks and financial services carries out the heaviest of the penalties. And based on what I've mentioned to you, the various factors that speaks into it have been repeated in there, followed by the mining and natural resources, as well as telecommunications and that of the banking and financial in the same category, and mining and then utilities. I think looking at what I have here, the banks and financial, telecommunication, and as well as utilities, they have one of the highest penalties, as well as followed by the mining and natural, and then the digital service provider, the tech, telecom companies, people who are providing digital services, and professional accredited individuals is ranging from 30,000 for not being accredited. If you are spotted providing services without being accredited, it comes with this fine. And if you evaluate any data protection, it also counts with that fine as well. So there's a need to register and also ensure that you participate in their training that they organize annually. So when all these penalties are slapped, who is to be blamed? Okay, so recently I did some research and I shared on LinkedIn on the responsibility and accountability is happening out there in the global space where there's a professional responsibility and an ultimate accountability rests with the board and top management. So the CISO is operationally responsible because he was nominated and he's required to ensure that operational controls are effective and running. He needs to be proactive and come out with prioritizing of risk and ensure that the business is not impacted when some of this is happening. And it's also ensure that he reports any vulnerabilities within 72 hours and report any incidents within 24 hours. So it's kind of a collaborative effort to ensure that the CISO is not left alone, but the business comes to play to ensure that we are protected. Now, this is a one framework based on the research that I've done in terms of ensuring a self-assessment of your environment, okay? So the first step is for you to identify your CII status, of which, based on the 13 sectors that we have mentioned, where do you fall as a CII as well? And then the second one, you need to have a governance and registration. That would put you at a level 1. And then you need to have a comprehensive risk management and then have your strategic compliance flows coming in to make sure that your environment has been risk assessed effectively, and then you've implemented all the requisite controls, and also ensure that you have prioritized your protection and response within 24 hours as stipulated by the requirement. And then you have systems in place to ensure that you are complying, detecting, and reporting. And that will put you at level 4. And where you carry out your internal and external audit and improvements, that puts you at level 5. So enterprise risk is very key to cover your people, process, technology, as well as your data and your sites that you operate as well. And there are a few frameworks that you can consider for which environment that you operate, whether you operate on IT or OT or IoT, that you can consider. And if you want to carry out a few self-assessments, you can visit compliance.cybershield.com.gh. You can also develop your own worksheet to assess your readiness or level of readiness or maturity level. That can also tell you where you are as well. And then at the end of the day, it provides you with a score per various areas. So thanks to Cyber Shield Consulting, they provided me with this, but I realized I need to share with you as well to enable you to also check your maturity level. And these are the various levels of maturity. If you are level 0, it means there's nothing at all. And the remediation effect that comes with it also follows. So at each of the levels that you find ourselves, it gives you a recommendation or remediation, as well as implementation or roadmap to achieve the highly optimized level of level 4. And the capabilities come with in terms of how you can be handheld or consulted to really ensure that you are fully compliant with all the requirements of the directive as well as the act. And you can also have some worksheet that has been developed to let you know at which of the various components of the requirements that you are complying, whether 100% or not, and then overall compliance that you achieved. Some of this information will be required by the board, as well as when it comes to reporting, quarterly reporting, and what have you. And then the various solutions that are around, that are available, that you can follow on to enable you to really ensure that all the directive areas are complied with for OT environment, IT environment, and a mix of it. Cyber Shield also provide that as well. So not just that, so there's a need to look at your environment and see what will really work for you. Now, this just a quick takeaway that I want to share with you before we close. Watch out for these cyber-related threats in 2026 and beyond. It's likely to change as we move into by the end of the year. Ransomware attack is still number one. People are using it, and then they are using it to attack your backups that you believe and you know you can fall on. So let's be strategic. How periodic do we test all these backups that we have, and the scenarios of ransomware attacks is key. You need to factor that in your priority of incident response and testing. AI-powered attacks are also coming out fast. The inexperienced guys are using AI tools to attack institutions, government, CIIs, and all of you. Supply chain compromise also coming up. AI and shadow AI risk is also leading to expression of data, unsensitive data, deepfake, and fraud phishing is also happening. That's cloning of voices and videos. OT attacks is also another one for our critical infrastructure. Geopolitical threats is also on the rise. AI and cloud data leak is also on the rise. And the kiddie guys are also using the cybersecurity as a service. They pay for the subscription and they use to attack us using the dark web. And regulatory risk is also facing us, and there's a need for us to apply. So a call to action is for us to strengthen our resilience, ensure that our backup and recovery are effective and they are being tested. In certain environment, they want to see evidence that we are really, the systems, the backup and recovery systems are really working and they are being tested periodically. And let's enforce our AI governance and data controls and tighten our third-party and supply chain controls. And there's a need to really strategically invest in real-time detection and response. We know we have log management when it comes to SIM. Now is no more log. Now there are new systems that are taking us into another realm of real-time detection of malicious attempts within packets, and is really coming out strongly. I'm sure we will see that as we go along. There's a need to also carry out crisis simulations within your department or establishment, as well as within your various sectors. So then CSA will come to you and confirm whether you are participating at the various sectors, also at the national level. And let's work at aligning with the regulatory requirements and accountability frameworks that we've shared with you already. So it's not just an IT function, it's a business functional well. And I have a few links that you can make reference after here, based on what I've shared with you so far. So from the authorities under the Ministry of Communication, as well as the Cybersecurity Authority, active enforcement has come to stay. It's now mandatory. It's been mandatory ever since, but is now being enforced to ensure that our nation is protected and our region is also protected. So together we build a safer and a stronger Ghana. And the action is for us to take is now to ensure compliance today, to ensure a resilience tomorrow. So team, this is how for us to detect whether we are ready or not. And at this point in time, I would pause for any questions or any comments or any suggestions for us to note and then see how best we can work together to protect our nation. Thank you.
Welcome, and thank you too for such an insightful presentation. From the moment of exposing us to the requirements that are enshrined in the law and from the regulatory perspective for all critical information infrastructures and by owners, individuals, and organization itself. You also let us know that vulnerability disclosure is becoming very critical, as well as incident notification to authorities and the regulators. You have also let us know some of the approaches and framework that we can hold on to when it comes to compliance level. The critical part is also like why it matters for these CIIs to protect themselves actually, and not just checking the checkbox or ticking them just like that. Then the real question was, what happens if you are not ready? Or what happens when what you don't want to happen has happened? That was also insightful. It's also intriguing and very revealing to know that now almost about 93% of organizations now think that cyber risk is equal to business risk. Gone are the days that they thought that if you are talking about cyber security, it's on its own and the business needs to make money and do other things. But it is changing. It has even changed that a business risk is a cyber risk and a cyber risk is a business risk. Then you also let us know some cybersecurity assessment readiness that we can do for self-assessment, and your tool that you have shared with compliance.cybershield comes handy, as I know that we'll be giving this out to participants. We can always go there to check out some of the solutions and the tools. And I'm very happy you mentioned that it's not just going for the tools, there to be fatigue about solutions, but you look at your environment and you decide what works for you. You ended so well by giving us top cyber threats and calling us to action that it has become mandatory. It is now upon all of us to take action now. What a moment of a journey. But I know that we will assimilate them as we move along. We will give opportunity to participants to ask questions. We have 15 minutes to do that. You can put your question in the chat box, or you can raise up your hands. We will unmute you to ask your question, and Mr. Boy is ready to help us, and we would be concluding the webinar. Please, if you have any question, you can put that in the chat box or raise up your hands, and we'll allow you to ask your question. We have 15 minutes to do that. Sure, Senior Isaac, people may also ask that for example, if you are the CISO, InfoSec manager, most of the time you have been able to, yeah, Jerome, I'll come to you briefly. You've exposed the entity to all that they are supposed to do, and as some would say, they choose to do what they want to do, and the worst happens. How does the framework also, if you are able to prove that you have done what you are supposed to do without getting some penalties, and I'm going back to your responsibility and accountability metrics, sort of, how does that work out?
Okay, so what I would say is like, apart from doing it yourself, there's a need to get the accredited professionals to assist you with it in terms of getting ready before CSA comes. So just like when organization is preparing for ISO certification, you have a lead implementer who would guide you to ensure that you are ready before the external auditor comes. Similar in a financial environment, before BOG auditors come to your bank, the internal auditor will ensure that everything is well in place before the supervisory team from BOG comes to your bank. So the accredited professionals are there to guide you, confirm what is adequate, what is not adequate, and what is also relevant. I mean, the most basic thing is ensuring that your enterprise risk assessment has been carried out, because it's very key. If you look at the act and you look at the directive, it talks strongly about risk management. And so without that, you will not be able to really identify your key risks, let alone put in the requisite controls, technical controls to protect the environment. So I'll recommend that approach for anyone.
And that will manifest that you have done your part as a professional in guiding the organization to comply. Okay. Jerome, please come in. You can unmute and ask your question, please. Jerome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. That was an insightful presentation. And I have a quick question. The CII, I think around 2020, 2021, I was privileged to be part of the first batch of trainers. But then I think I was with Canada Service, so I was a focal person, and we went through a week-long training. It was very exciting, and I learned a lot. Now, the challenge that I have seen over the years, the space, is that most of the organizations, and then the MMDC, and then the MDs, and then the agencies, what you realize is that you don't have professionals that, for instance, many organizations don't have CISO. They don't have them. Have somebody representing them as, let's say, director of IT. The person have no background in this.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Okay, Jerome. Okay, your network.
Yeah. So the organization would not also want to invest in hiring a professional. So when you go for such meeting and you make recommendations based on the discussions you have with the board, they don't seem to understand, because sometimes the person who becomes a focal person is way down the ladder in terms of management. So the discussions hang there. I remember I made about a 14-page report and recommendations based on the tools we have learned, and then the manual we went through. We're supposed to do that, and I did that in 2020, 2021, but nothing has been done about that. So my challenge is that what is CSA doing when it comes to that bridge between them and then the organizations? Because the knowledge is not actually implemented at the organization. The only sector that you see this working seriously is the financial sector, because people's monies are involved. But places like the health sector, the other sectors that are not really managing maybe funds of people, and they see the seriousness or the severity of their job or the service they render, they seem not to take this until something happens. When nothing happens, then everybody sits on the fence. So what is the step to be able to bring the board or the management the managers of the various sectors to understand what this thing means, and then be able to relay to the organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerome. Senior Isaac.
Okay, so I just want to share the one of the requirements of the directive. If you look at section 5.1, it talks about designated CII owner shall adopt the following policy for the protection of the designated CII. So whether you are in the health sector, water, or energy, it said, if you look at C, it said a designated CII owner shall appoint an accountable officer of a senior management level rank, okay, and require that he or she assumes a proactive approach to cybersecurity governance, policy, and strategy of the designated CII owner. So this one is supposed to be done by the owner of the organization. Okay. So, and that the owner is also required to develop and implement a cybersecurity policy which adequately addresses CII risk as well. So everything in here is clearly spelled out that the CII owner is supposed to follow all this. So as part of a checklist, as an institution, do you have a designated owner, CII owner, and has that person nominated an accountable officer of a senior management level? So the CII owner is supposed to be what? A project sponsor, or has a deep interest in the CII operations of the institute or the entity or organization. So to keep the matter short, there's a need to, once appointing an accountable officer, there's a need to ensure that the person who is supposed to do that has the requisite skills, has the competency, the certifications, and all of you. This is where HR comes in, and also to ensure that the right person is selected. And the issue is the person has to be able to carry out what all the responsibilities required. The person appreciated, the person has been trained, and all that. So it's a key responsibility. And as we are saying that if you put the wrong person in the very demanding position and you are not able to achieve the results, the impact can be obvious. So okay, so I think I have another hand. That's Enoch.
We
I
have
don't know whether
Enoch.
Jeremy,
Enoch
whether I've answered your question well.
Yeah, okay. I think Jerome, are you on? Before we go to I think Jerome wanted to just say that the government, which is through the CSA implementing this, have most of its agencies not ready because they don't put in the right people at the right place for them to spearhead these compliance requirements. Jerome, I hope that was really the
Yeah. So let me give you a practical example. I think one such meetings came up. Then the head of IT for a particular institution. So I formally, there's a meeting. They sent a mail. So by the way, I've left that institution, so I'm no longer there. So I asked him that, Charlie, are you not going? Then he said, oh, you those can't. Just use my language. He said, those things there, me, I'm not interested. You go and listen. When you come, you can tell me. So you can understand that when you go for such meetings, and then he's a director for IT and organization, he's not interested in what is going on. When you come back and then you brief this person, you give him the report, you tell him what's supposed to be done, you are very much sure that it will not be carried out because the interest is not there. So my issue is that CSA want to enforce compliance. It's true, but we should not just leave it like that. Recently, there was a serious mess at the health sector. Some of these issues, if they were to go beyond the discussion and then put in some measures for putting some more severe measures, certain happenings would have been avoided. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, thank you very much. Enoch,
Okay.
please come in with your question. We have some few minutes to conclude. Then after that, we'll go to Clement. Enoch, please unmute and come in.
Hello, no.
Am I the only one? Enoch, if you are talking, we are not able to hear you at the moment. So if you can just adjust your mic or whatever and let us hear you. I can see you are unmuted, but I don't seem to hear what you are saying.
I think Enoch is having challenges. Maybe we can try Clement whilst Enoch tries to fix
Yeah.
this.
Okay. Clement, please come in.
Hi. Yeah, good evening. Thank you once again for this forum. It has been very informative. However, we always say that the financial sector is very clean, or I'm using very clean in appropriate terms. And it's mainly attributed because of the regulator and the directives or the foresight in which the regulator is seeing that particular sector. I think CSA, with its power, needs to either caution or either mandate other sectors, the regulators of other sectors, to be very vibrant when it comes to cybersecurity and privacy related issues. Yes, the CSA has some penalty points for people who do not comply. But I also think that the regulators should also be part of this penalty points, because if that particular sector is going down the drain because of cyber security or related events, it doesn't speak well of that regulator as well. So that's my point of view. So I think CSA should also empower us to pull the ears or drag the ears of these regulators, especially the health sector. The health sector in Ghana is actually deficient when it comes to cybersecurity and privacy related issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Clement.
Isaac, can I add something?
Please come. Yeah.
Okay, and now, I actually took a look at the ITU ranking for the Ghana case, okay? And this is what I realized. The financial sector, as well as the national security setup, were the top in terms of maturity. They were scored like 4 there, okay? And the lower sectors are the health sector and food and agri. And I was like, then something has to be done in terms of ensuring that there's a minimum KPI that can be issued to these sectors to ensure that they are all meetings at least from 3 onwards. Okay, so I do agree with you. Certain sectors have to set up, but in terms of ensuring minimum requirement of standardization in terms of cybersecurity protection per the sector, that would be a good way to go, and it can be tracked on a quarterly basis and then published on how the various sectors are performing. I'm sure that would deepen the awareness and then deepen the interest of the various boards that operate. And because it starts to start from the board, that's where they approve the budgets. Because if the budgets are not approved, my brother, there'll be no investments in the area. So just to save some time, I'll end here for Isaac A to take over.
Sure. Thank you very much. I also think that the government should also take a critical effort of taking some of these board members of these government agencies to some simple trainings. The CSA can also take that upon themselves to train them, to make them aware, because as we talk about it, sometimes they really don't understand the issues. So they cannot speak to it even at the board. So I think that's one. And a light one, as Clement was saying, that the regulators should also be part of the fining. And I was just asking myself, who are they going to pay the fines to if they are well, they are the receiving end. Yeah, just by the way.
The regulator,
Enoch, I don't know whether you were fine or you wanted to come in again. If not, do we have Enoch? Can you try again so that we also have your question or your comment before we end this session, please? Or if you can chat, let me just check. Okay, yes, I think Enoch sent a chat. He wanted to ask, how will enforcement be handled in the informal sector, which makes up a large part of Ghana's economy, like the Momo vendors. Isaac B. Senior.
Okay, so when it comes to that's what's under the financial banking and financial. We have this directive as well. That's what's under the MOMO aspect of it that guides those operators. Okay, so in fact, the financial sector is highly regulated. Okay, so I would say they also have their own set of guidelines and framework that they follow with. So for that particular example, I know it exists. And then I know Data Protection Commission is also out there and then providing some more awareness and then letting people know that if you are taking care of or handling people's data, you are supposed to comply with the requirements of the Data Protection Act. And also when it comes to individuals, people recently, I heard somebody publish a driver who the person has an issue with, that the person is an armed robber in social media, and the person was dragged that they should take that comment down because it hasn't got any proven. And when you publish any false information, you can be pulled by the authorities. So I would say to the large extent, those individuals may belong to the informal sector, and they are trying to enforce these issues to discourage people from coming out. And then, I mean, somebody can even paste the picture of the nakedness of someone because the person thinks the person has broken his or her heart and publishes in the social media. So those things are being handled by the authority to ensure that it's being minimized. And I'm sure you see them in the news as well. So the authorities are trying to enforce and ensure sanity in the system. Yeah.
And actually, he wanted to also add that do they have to be registered with the cybersecurity authority, like those informal Momo vendors, and do they have to register with the cybersecurity or some sort of thing?
Well, for when you look at the CII directive, it clearly spells out on the key requirements on who's supposed to register or not. Okay, so for instance, if you take, for instance, the let me take you there. For instance, if you are an individual, if you are an operator, you are supposed to. That's under the CII. And in CII, it's once you handle certain assets that are critical to the survival of the nation, then you are one of them. So energy, water, and what have you. When it comes to service providers, you are a service provider and provide services to any of these owners or operators, then you are also required to have license under the Act. So you provide vulnerability and pen testing services, data forensic and incident response, managed security services, or GRC service. You are supposed to also register and have the license. And you provide cybersecurity training. So it's very clear in those areas. And if you are a professional, you need to be accredited. Like in my case, accredited, so I can I need to conform with the requirements per section 57 to 59 and ensure that I have an ongoing compliance with the CSA standard. So even today I was at CSA, I'm trying to ensure that I'm complying with all their requirements, ensure that my certificate doesn't expire, it's always active, and I engage with them and ensure continuous development or professional development with all the requirements that are in there. So, so it's very clear. If you add certain things, someone will ask you, is it legally binding? So you need to be able to make reference to the Act as well as the directive. So that's the long and short of it.
Thank you. I think we'll end on this note, but there was another submission by Isaac. I'll read through that, then I will take your feedback. Then after that, I'll invite the Director of Information Security and Data Protection Directorate of IIPGH, then we can call it a day. His subject is consideration of CISO remuneration and standardization of service conditions. He said, "Dear Isaac, I would like to commend Isaac for delivering an insightful and well-articulated presentation. The key points were clearly communicated and highly relevant. This said, I would like to raise an important concern regarding the significant responsibility placed on organizations and their chief information security officers, that they are CISOs, in ensuring compliance with the cybersecurity industry, that CII requirements and related standards, given the critical role CISOs play in safeguarding organization assets and maintaining regulatory compliance. There appears to be a growing disparity between the level of responsibility assigned and the remuneration provided by some organizations. In many cases, the compensation may not adequately reflect the demands, risk, and accountability associated with the role. This could potentially impact dedication, performance, and overall effectiveness. In light of this, I would like to respectfully inquire what measures are being considered by the Cybersecurity Authority to ensure that CISOs are fairly and adequately remunerated in alignment with their responsibilities. Is there a possibility for the CSA to develop and recommend a standardized scheme of service or remuneration framework that organizations can adopt? Such a framework could help ensure consistency, fairness, and adequacy in compensation, thereby strengthening accountability. Addressing this issue would not only support professionals in their critical roles, but also enhance the overall cybersecurity. Thank you for your attention. Yes, also, Senior Isaac B, what do you think about it? Because with accreditation, they have tiered it, they know the level you are, and they try to put some fees and things that you are supposed to pay. On the other side, our colleague Isaac is also asking, why are they also not interested in how much the CISO is being paid? Just have 30 seconds there. We can.
Well, okay. For that bit, I would have to come back to you on this because in terms of remuneration, every environment and the policy in terms of remuneration policy that they have in place, in some cases, the sector by sector to it also. So I don't have an immediate response to this. It's something that I can take it up and maybe during my engagement with CSA, we can have that discussion coming up. So I'm sorry for now, I can't give you. But in certain circumstances, the CISO can do a business case or come out with the kind of in terms of, because you have to show work or show some kind of business impact that you've had on organization. Okay, for instance, if you're able to say, okay, hit it to 2025 or 2026, I mean, this level of cybersecurity incidents happened and hit the organization. But when you took up the role, you identify the key threats to that was impacting on the strategic business roles or goals, and that has saved the organization by so much. So in that case, we are proving that you are able to implement some value for money investment that has really saved the organizations. If less in the past, the organization was being fined annually of a so much amount, and this time you manage to put in all those, that can be a justification or a springboard for them to even improve on your pay structure or your package. So I believe at times we need to look at understand the business, because they always believe we are like a cost center. We are always spending and they are not seeing results. Okay, so you prepare your budget, how strategic it is. Is it directly pointing to certain key risks that is impacting the business that they are so obvious of it? And what have you done about it? What effort have you done to mitigate and reduce the impact? So I feel there's a need for us to understand the business and be able to do more proactively at a very cost-effective approach, because at times we go in for solutions that are very expensive, but we are not able to make a good business case for it to come to place, or we kind of outsource it in the interim, see how the impact comes before we move into acquire our own.
Okay.
So there's a
Sure,
need
sure.
to consider all sectors.
Sure, 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 sure. Yeah, I think it's a conversation that can also be taken up, and one day there might be some standardization. But as Richard also gives an input here, that a standardized scheme of service actually falls on the regulator, that is NITA. Over some time, IIPGH has been working closely with NITA to address that, among other plans for ICT professionals in and the ecosystem. Yeah, so I think yes, sometimes professional bodies like IIPGH can work closely with government agencies to standardize some of these remuneration issues as we are talking about. Yeah, I would want to thank you very much, Mr. Isaac Boy, for such an insightful and an informative session. We want to appreciate you and appreciate your time for coming along with us. I will now give the opportunity to the Director of Information Security and Data Protection Directorate of IIPGH, Alhaji Sheriff Issa, to have a vote of thanks, then we can call it a day. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, team. I want to thank our presenter, Isaac B, and our moderator, Isaac A. I call this the clash of the Isaacs. We really appreciate your time, effort, energy in ensuring a fruitful webinar. To our audience, we thank you very much. I mean, I must say that the turnout is not too encouraging, but at least, I mean, you spent your time on this webinar to also grasp one or two things. And I mean, it's very obvious. Each and every one of us might have learned one or two things from this webinar. So it's a key learning point for all of us. I mean, joining such sessions. So, Tim, I want to thank you once again for your time. And Isaac, over to you. I don't know if Richard want to say anything before
Richard,
we end. Yeah, Richard. Maybe let me say Kafu. If I say Richard, it might not know. It might think I'm from another person. Let me say Kafu.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Hello?
Yes, you are.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much, team, for putting this together. I think this actually falls in line with the objects of the CSA, and I believe in the next webinar, getting them on board to also say one or two to add to what our presenters would say would be a very great thing to have. So I think we can inculcate that and make sure we have a larger representation from the CSA in our next webinar. I realized the time wasn't enough for us to exhaust a lot of the conversations as it was getting more interesting. Maybe we can look at extending this to a 2-hour session so we can accommodate a lot more of the conversations after the presentation. That said, it's still a good one, and I think we can improve on this bit in terms of the numbers, the participation. So we'll need more involvement in terms of pushing this across for larger participation in the next or subsequent webinars. We would also be introducing a few other webinars in the areas of AI and machine learning. So let's keep fingers crossed and look forward to that as well, as we'll be engaging very powerful speakers and experts in the domain. So thank you once again for joining us this evening. Over to you, Sharif and Isaac A.
Yeah, thank you, Kafi. We want to appreciate every one of you And as Kafri has said, there are a lot of other webinars that may come our way. We would entreat all of us to be pushing it. Let's share it on platforms that we can get other members to also join to have a good conversation. Thank you all and have a good night. See you.